belief about self has been evolved with the experience, the environment, and the knowledge I gained throughout these many years. And some things never change, like the way I identify myself as a female. I believe it has nothing to do with that experience, environment, or knowledge I have acquired, right? As it's biological, as simple as that. The gender identity or sexual orientation has nothing to do with how one leads a team, solves a problem, or be successful or even fail. But it has so much to do with our mindset shift and workplace culture. Good morning, all. My name is Jigisha Navneet, and I'm your host for today's event. The month of June is LGBTQ Pride Month, and while many companies offer public displays of support, we still need to do a lot of work. In recent years, there is an entire community that has come forward and highlighted the issue they face at home, at society level, and at workplace. The right to lead a respectful life is often ignored. With this, at Wiki Future of Work National Council, we want to address the issue of LGBTQ community at workplace with a solution point of view. And for the same, we have our expert panelists joining for the discussion. Our first guest of the event is Squadron Leader Dilshad Master. She is an Indian Air Force veteran. In her second inning, she found her calling in championing the cause of the LGBTQ plus community. She is a trained queer affirmative counselor and psychotherapist and currently penning her two books, Help My Kids Queer and for fostering LGBTQ plus inclusion at workplace. A warm welcome, Dilshad.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jigisha. Thanks, Gauri, and thank you, Vicky, for having me here.
Joining her, we have Deepa Gangadharan, National Vice President at Wiki Future of Work Council. Deepa is a happiness coach, an advocate of change and diversity. She is a seasoned HR and L&D professional with over 2 decades of vast and vivid experience in corporates. A very warm welcome, Deepa, to today's panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Jigisha. Good morning, Dilshad. Nice to see you here.
Good morning, Deepa. Nice to see you here too. Welcome.
Our third panelist is Gauri Das, National President at Wiki Future of Work Council. Gauri is a strategic HR leader with 15 plus years of experience, and she holds double masters in HR and psychology. A TEDx speaker, a mentor who holds a prominent place in advisory board of numerous NGOs and institutes. Top 10 Global Women HR Under 40, Economic Times Young HR Leader, LinkedIn Person of the Year 2020, Top 10 Must-Have LinkedIn Connections on LinkedIn 2021 are some of the few accolades and recognitions she has received in recent time. A very warm welcome, Gauri.
Thank you so much, Jigisha, for curating this. Yes, Pride Month we are celebrating, and we have a champion, just like you mentioned about Dilshad, and Deepa is also here. So I'm looking forward to an amazing discussion today. Thank you. And Dilshad, thank you so much. On behalf of Vicky, I welcome you and thanks a lot for being here. It's going to be a great value addition for us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gauri. Thanks for having me here. Thank you.
So in the beginning, we have been talking about inclusivity and diversity all over the place. You know, when you see the social media and when you see the placards and the events happening, people talk about it a lot. For common people to understand, I would like to open the session with a simple question: why diversity and inclusion are imperative at workplace? I would like as coordinator Dilshad to add her viewpoints to it.
Sure. So, Jikisha, let me begin by saying that by virtue of all of us being Indians, we are by default born into a diverse land, right? India is a country where every 100 kilometers there is a difference. So, it could be a difference in language, dialect, cuisine, clothing, everything. We were also a land that was very open and welcoming to different genders, different sexualities, right? It is only after the imperialist, the rule in India that we suddenly developed this aversion to any sort of welcoming different genders or sexualities in our midst. So that's where the discrimination actually started. Back then, society was way too open, too advanced for any Western powers to realize or wrap their heads around. So they bound us into these binaries of male and female. And now what is happening is over these 200 years, we have grown to believe that that's the right way of living. There has been the other factionalisms, that the political ones, the regional ones, all of this curb diversity at the workplace. And when you curb diversity at the workplace, you're immediately cutting down on productivity, you're immediately cutting down on creativity, and you're also, in a way, cutting down on geographical expansion. Because multiple geographies, you cannot have the same set of people catering to different geographies because they will not understand those geographies. So unless you bring in that diversity also into the workplace, age-related diversity, gender-related diversity, you will not grow as an organization. And one of the last things, and one of the most important things I feel, is because today's generation, your target audience today, your target market today, is the early 20s onwards, right? These are the people who have started earning. These are going to be your target market for the next 20, 40, 50 years. And they are a very woke generation. They know these differences. They know what LGBT stands for. They know if you're being discriminatory. They choose to reject or select whom they buy from or whose services they opt for. So, if for nothing else, at least for the sake of your own bottom line, for the sake of your own competition, and to stay current and relevant in your market, you must have diversity at the workplace. So yeah, that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dilshad. That is right, right? So we have been diverse. In between, somewhere we lost it, right? And now it is a need of an hour, if nothing else, for your own business, for your own bottom line.
True.
Yeah, I would like Deepa to join and put her point of view towards the same question: why it is imperative to have diversity and inclusion at workplace.
Yes. So I second all the things which Delshad mentioned, and also I feel that any place for that matter, in society, workplace, home, whatever, a diverse perspective is always welcome. And we would not, unless we understand the other person's perspective, we would think that what we are thinking is right, or things like that. So it's always it gives a robust appeal to the whole environment when we have different people from different regions also coming in. Say for example, I am a person who goes for a lot of treks and everything, and I have people come from all over India, and that's a great culmination of a place where you're amidst nature, and then you are meeting with people, and of different people, different backgrounds and different culture. And it's a great thing, and and the goal is the same, like we are all nature lovers, we are all things, so it's all about the same goal. So what we don't understand is that by cutting it off, by cutting certain people, we are we're actually missing out on the main goal, the bigger goal. And that is something that is, that's like, putting a, horse's blinder and, going ahead with your, work. So I think that is something that, that gives that the whole importance of having diversity is to bring about a robust, culture, and also to get a, diverse perspective in things, and how best we can go and achieve the common goal that we have as in workplace or in society at large.
Purpose driven, right? We have all have to be goal driven, purpose driven. Purpose is bigger than the person and the atmosphere from where they are coming or the ambience they are flourishing in. Thank you so much, Deepa, for putting that perspective. Gauri, I welcome you to open your view about the same, why it is imperative to have inclusion and diversity at workplace.
Yeah, thanks, Jigisha, and wonderful listening to Del and Deepa. Rightly said, diversity. But I would now say that diversity is everywhere. It's all about inclusion today. Because whether we accept it or not, we are diverse. We have been diverse. At home since childhood, I'm seeing that somebody's favorite is Lord Krishna, somebody else's favorite is Lord Shiva. So even at home, we have diversity. The food choices are different. My own life, I am a vegetarian. Not I don't even eat egg at my home. We don't even eat onion and garlic. And when I got married to a Bengali family. So there, fish is like every day. It's a staple food for them. But the kind of inclusion that I realized, the kind of connect that I could have because of this thing, I realized that it must be there at workplaces also. And same thing happens at workplace also. Since I cannot withstand smell of fish, my colleagues do not bring it to the lunch table. They do not warm it in the microwave so that people like me are not offended and they don't feel bad about it. Likewise, we also need to be sensitive about these things. Say for example, when I moved to Mumbai, in Mumbai, people from UP, they are called as bhaiya. I don't know what is the term for women, but generally the terminology is bhaiya. So when I came here, and as you know, I started from a very small village, the kind of things that used to be told to me, bhaiya, another bhaiya in the team, and she's from a small place, how would she understand how Mumbai works? So such kind of things, when it happened to me at workplace, I was shattered. I would not be able to give as much productivity or engagement or have that connect with the team as I should have been doing. But when I look at home and look at the Bengali family, I am so much included there. I am so invited there. So, as we say, diversity is just having an invitation to the party. I was invited to work at a office, but I was not included. So allowing you to dance and including you there is inclusion. And I think today the whole focus is on inclusion, because we have understood there is diversity, there is value in diversity. Even in terms of businesses, the productivity, they say, even if you increase diversity by 1% per employee per annum, productivity increases by up to $1,500. So there is a business case for diversity today. And yes, that's how there are so many efforts being done on having diversity. And there's so much, it's like multiple generations. LGBTQ we are going to discuss anyways. Places from where people come. So I've seen some of the examples. There is an institute in West Bengal, MBBS institute. They have different tables. So people from one caste would sit on one table, and people from another caste have to go and sit on something which is not so good. It is happening in today's time. Now, when these people come to workplaces, they will come with similar mindset. And that's why the efforts on diversity and inclusion are extremely important, because it's there in the grassroots. We have to eliminate it to make it an inclusive workplace. Back to you, Jikisha.
Wonderful, Gauri. Like from home to the education system to the work culture, we are so much, excluded from inclusion. I would say that it is knowingly done. Sometimes it is, because whatever you receive at your educational institute, you are going to take it ahead, whether it is knowledge or behavior, right? Somebody is affirming the same thing. With this, I would like to put a perspective ahead that when we talk about diversity, that okay, we all are diverse. We now it is more about inclusion. Do you think that there is an progressive work happening at global or national level when it concerns Indian LGBTQ community? Is there any noteworthy progress that they should know that this progress is happening? We want to talk it more about the positive change here. Is there any noteworthy thing happening? Yeah, Dilshad.
So there is, Jikisha, there is a lot of positivity coming around, and surprisingly, it's coming from the side of the government as well. So while the private, industry, private companies, all of them are doing their bit, but the surprising aspect is a lot of it is coming from the government. And I would say Section 377 was just the first step. So that laid the foundation to everything that was to follow. It is largely been deemed unconstitutional to discriminate on the basis of gender and sexuality also now, right? We have the Transgender Act, which came in December 2019. It went unnoticed largely because it was exactly coinciding with news about Corona, and since then, everything had been in lockdown. So Transgender uh, Protection Act did not get the amount of publicity it should have. It has not spread the way it should have. So that's been another very, very positive change that was brought about. Of course, there is still a lot to be done in the act itself. A large part of the transgender community is not very happy with what has come out, but at least it's a step in the right direction. It has made discrimination against trans persons a criminal offense for which they can be not just fined but even imprisoned from 6 months to 2 months, 6 months to 2 years. That's another thing. Apart from this, a lot of high courts, the High Court of Madras, the High Court of Kerala, they have in given some wonderful path-breaking judgments which normally would probably go unnoticed simply because they were supposed to judge on a particular matter for which they could have given the judgment and ended the case. But they went 10 steps ahead of that, and they gave guidelines as to why something similar should not come back into court and how to avoid such situations. So they also said, all schools should have this education about gender and sexuality right from the primary classes. They said workplaces should be sensitized about these communities. The legal community, the police should be sensitized. All of this was, I would say, a very progressive step for the judge, because he first educated himself. He accepted and admitted that he had no knowledge of this community when asked to pass the judgment. He educated himself through different NGOs and then passed this landmark judgment. Now, a similar thing happened in Kerala where a transgender couple, the district magistrate refused to register their marriage. And the High Court passed a judgment that the word bride should include woman, and that includes trans woman, because self-determination is permitted in India now. So legally, this trans woman is also a bride. She has married another man. The marriage is absolutely legal, and you have to register it. So a lot of such judgments are coming from the high courts. They may not receive as much publicity, of course, as the reading down of Section 377, but these kind of things are rays of hope for the community. So I am very glad that while India Inc. is looking at LGBT inclusion, the government is also doing its bit, whether it's the judiciary or whether it's the states. A lot of states have now have reservations and policies for transgender inclusion. Kerala being foremost, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Orissa, these are really, really progressive states when it comes to transgender and LGBT inclusion. So I'm really happy with that. I mean, it's change is happening at a gradual level. Of course, corporates we hear of very easily, right? Because they publicize it. They go shouting it out from the rooftops. But it's these things that we should also be mindful of, because the law is also coming along. It's not just the private companies that are looking into it, but India is improving legally as well. Right? Yeah, over to you, Jignesh.
Yeah, thank you, Dilshad. And I myself didn't know about it. Okay, so as you said that the news of the Article 377 just carved down somewhere, we don't know, and we are happy that our government is also thinking progressively now. Deepa, I would like you to add on something global level or national level which you have seen happening noteworthy for the same community.
So thanks, Jigisha. So yes, the progress is happening, but it's at very small level, I would say. But yes, the Transgender Act and the Section 377 is a stepping stone, and it'll give rise to a lot of amendments and a lot of things. So what we need to understand here is that this is like an ever evolving community, or an ever evolving thing. So we cannot just say, okay, we have come up with a section 377, or section this, and we have an act. But what we need to do here is to ensure that we keep at it, like we look at it and see how well we can actually encompass a lot of other things that is there, that is kind of missed out. Like, for example, the Transgender Act does have something on the lines where sexual abuse is a punishable act, but it does not specify as to what encounters or what calls for a sexual abuse for a transgender community. So that is something still a gray area there. We still have a lot of progress to be done there, but the important point is that we are getting there, as Dilshad mentioned, that there is a government policies that is there and everything. So it is mostly about how we can make it more robust, how we can have it an all encompassed law, and get everything there. And it is not like, okay, you pass a judgment today, you have an act today, and that's about it. It's not as simple as that, because there are still a lot of pockets, a lot of things that is still not come out in the open. And a lot of people's things have not come out in the open for various reasons that we all know of, which is of course about fear, shame, guilt, whatever that may be. And as and when that comes out, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to go and make these amendments so that these changes can be implemented, not just in the policies, as Gauri mentioned. It needs to be practiced as well, because policies and everything is, we all are having it, but how efficiently are we actually putting it into practice? That is the key that that we need to do. So the progress, yes, it is there. We have kind of, at least in India, we are making that step towards this at the larger end, but we need to keep at it. We need to ensure that we keep adding on to that and see how best we can support this community at large.
Action is important, implementation is important, right?
Absolutely.
So Gauri, with this, anything you have seen global at national level which has taken in the consideration, like, yes, this is called change, this is what we want.
Yeah, rightly said by Del and Deepa that things have changed. Even government has taken a lot of interest in this, and organizations are also doing it. I'm seeing it everywhere now, because Bollywood has come up with a lot of movies to support this, and we have seen since childhood that movies are a kind of change agent. There were times when there were movies on dowry, because that was the most important thing at that point of time. Again, there was a diversity kind of angle there, when we had a hero from a very poor background and the heroine from a very rich background. So even that was diversity and inclusion. But now they have come out openly, and these movies have got acceptance. Honestly speaking, and I'm sure some of you also would relate with this, when I was a child, talking about tea from the whole setup, would be scared of them, because this is what we were told, that they are here just to extract money, and we will behave with them as if they are not humans. So these kind of things were happening at that point of time, but we have come a very, very long way. Now today, when I watch these movies along with my teenage daughter, she is understanding, she's gaining a new perspective, and that's where our next generation lies, and that's where our people who are joining the workforce are also there, and that is another push for organizations to take those steps. But yes, if we look at people around, I have a friend who has not come out as yet because the environment is not so conducive. So unless each one of them, whosoever wants to come out, they are okay to do it, I would not say that we have made a lot of progress. We are way behind other countries, western countries. They started long ago, and that's how we are celebrating Pride Month today. But yes, there has been some ground covered because of social change. I would say the most important factor here is social change, and as a society we have started accepting. So once the mindset changes, changing regulations would not be very difficult. So yes, I can see a positive light towards the end of the tunnel here. Back to you.
Yeah. So we have to accept. We have to make it normal. Maybe it can be uncommon, right? Everything uncommon cannot be abnormal. So the mindset here is to bring it as normal, to see it as normal, to consider it as okay, it's a human being. Somebody who is next to me is a human being first, then the gender, and gender has nothing to do how, as I said in the beginning, how a person works, right? How a person leads a team. It is about the education, knowledge, expertise they bring to the office, not the gender, right? Okay, with this, I have a very interesting question that now we know that how imperative it is, what are the changes happening. But if further improvement is needed, which is not seen, right? As Gauri mentioned, that something is happening at Educational Institute as, as highly regarded as a medical college, right? So some things we are not seeing it, or not prominently seeing it maybe. So what are those things which we can change?
So I would say, firstly, the change has to come from the beginning. So it has to come from childhood. And whenever I say this, it tends to be controversial because the first thing parents jump at is, how do you tell a child about all of this? How do you tell a child about sex and gender and sexuality and all that? It's like this. Earlier, when we were kids, nobody told us about good touch, bad touch, right? Nobody told us about, it's okay to be friendly, to be courteous, but be wary of someone touching you inappropriately. Today, parents are having that talk with children. And there are books and there are training material which are age appropriate. Earlier, menstruation, nobody actually showed us a film on menstruation. Nobody showed us comics on menstruation. In fact, it was not even an uttered word. So I remember even in the ads, like, Gauri was speaking about how social media has brought so much change, whether it's movies or ads. पहले बोलते थे उन दिनों में, आपके उन दिनों के लिए, ठीक है, nobody would even utter the word period. And now it's become a household thing. Mindsets have changed where, even boys are encouraged to, go to the chemist shop and ask for a packet of pads. Similarly, one, social media can bring about that change, but two, it has to start from childhood. And everything can be made age appropriate. So it's not like you have to directly talk to your child about, gender being a thing that will come only much later, because children develop a gender identity, a sense of gender identity as young as 2.5, 3, right? So if from that point onwards, we educate them that the world is not binary, it's not just male, female, it's not just pink and blue. Just like there are so many colors and you could like any color, just like there are so many toys and you could play with any toy. Okay. Similarly, our storybooks, similarly, our textbooks, we have a lot of wealth in terms of our mythological stories. A lot, If those can be translated into storybooks for children, which gradually introduce them to the concept that, the earlier there used to be people who were men, but then they became women, or vice versa, or there were women who had women partners and there were men who had male partners. The concept becomes so natural and so smoothly accepted that you don't have to then wait to talk to your child about it. If the child grows up knowing that, you know, the world is not pink and blue, just because I'm a boy, I don't get to play football, and a girl doesn't have to play with Barbies or serve tea. If that is inculcated right at the start, then going forward, it'll be a very different world, Jigisha. So one is, of course, the education system, even the higher education system. So like Gauri mentioned, the medical college. Now, I know of a doctor who told me that in their 5 years of MBBS study, they barely brush up on transgender identities. They just literally whiz past it. They have some 6 hours of study on this. That's it. 6 hours of study in 5 years. Even doctors do not know about gender and sexuality. There are doctors who are not educated about it. So where is the question of them treating the others right? So even at higher education levels, our education needs to be changed. NCRT did a very good thing by introducing a particular syllabus. The powers that be revolted, and there was a massive backlash at NCRT. Within 3 days of coming out with that syllabus, they had to withdraw it. So now, if these kind of things keep happening, our children will never learn. I mean, how long are we going to hide under this? It's not our culture. It's not ye parda kab tak aap nahi uthaoge. Okay, jabki that's not even the culture that we should be relating to. That's the one brought about by imperialism. Our culture, in fact, had all this inclusion. Our culture was very, very inclusive. So I think we have to start from the very beginning. We have to start from childhood, then build up on it. By the time the child reaches puberty, adolescence, when you're having the sex ed talk with the child, this also has to be a part of that. By then, the child has already grown up not believing in binaries. So your job becomes that much easier. And existing population, lots of sensitization, especially public facing services, your police, your luminaries, your legal luminaries, your medical professionals. None of them are, sensitized towards this. So all your public facing roles have to, I feel, compulsorily undergo sensitization training. So yeah, that's it from me.
Education and public services has to be, at the
Sensitized.
fundamental level, they need the, what do you call it, as education, about the
Yes.
education of LGBT.
They need to be sensitized. Yeah, they need to be sensitized about them. They need to
Yeah.
be told that they are to be treated just as any other human being,
Yes.
not
Yes.
discriminated against.
Discrimination, sarcastic, then humiliation. We can save the community from the same, right? Yes, Deepa. So, can you add something like what we are not seeing, what we can improve?
Um, Again, as Dilshad mentioned, it is all about sensitization and starting from young. I have a 11-year-old daughter, and she already knows about a lot of stuff, and we are very. I'm very vocal about all of these things. I talk to her about it. I talk to her about menstruation. I talk to her about these things. I ensure that I encourage her to watch movies and come back to me with questions. So where we are having a environment of openness where they can come and talk about all of these things. Like, she sees certain things and she is curious. Obviously, it's an age where she is curious, so you need to give her that kind of opportunity or support that that is there. So in that sense, I think mm, many people, as Gauri mentioned earlier, we all know it is diverse. We all know we are all of diverse thing, but the acceptance is not there. And then the thing that, okay, हाँ ये उनके घर में हो रहा है, मेरे घर में नहीं होगा, that kind of a thing. I think that is where you need to start understanding that it can happen to anyone. It is a common thing. It is a natural thing. There is nothing thing like we have seen in movies where certain kids have been given treatment to be cured of these things, which is absolutely absurd. So it's all about the mindset. It's all about the acceptance. It is about starting from the grassroots, and it is about going and sensitivity about all of these things. You don't have to know what happens, how it happens. It's okay. The curiosity is something that is, "Arey, aise kaise?" Those kind of things. So it's okay if you don't know about it, but understand that this happens. Understand that it is something that is natural, and it is an acceptable thing, and you just have to be there. You don't have to join hands and be party to it. All you have to do is be an ally, and that itself is a big thing that you can do about it, because it's just that, okay, hey, I'm there for you as a fellow human being. I'm there for you. And the certain things that is not there is like, what we've seen, like, even for that matter, women as well. We have seen a lot of discrimination in our growing up years, and are still seeing in a few pockets, though in maybe cities it is not that much, but yes, it is still there, but in a hush way. And the things that is not there is, these kind of, these loose statements, these assumptions. And these are the things that people have to be mindful of, that okay, the language that you speak is essential. That you need to understand that, okay, it's okay if you don't understand, but be mindful of it. Just don't throw loose language, and just don't talk about things which is just because you don't understand it, it doesn't mean that it is irrelevant or it is not valuable, and things like that. So these are the things, like, small things, like, we make assumptions and we talk, and then certain things, like, even in a common social environment, you just talk about it, and "Arey, main to mazak kar raha tha." I mean, that's not mazak. I'm really sorry to say. It's definitely not mazak. So maybe for you it is, but it's not. So we need to be mindful about it, that people, they are people, they have feelings, they have emotions, and we, just like us, it is going to impact them. And honestly, I feel the major thing that we all should do is also in terms of strengthening the mental health support system, that needs to be available for people, everyone, not just this community as such, but even generally as people, because we have seen in COVID what has happened, and what is happening. And right now the mental health issue is something that, even that is something that is kind of in a hush hush thing, and people are not vocal about it. But I think all of these things put together, we need to have that acceptance, and understand that the language that we use, be a little bit more mindful about the language that we use, and be an ally, and that's it. And it's nothing to be there's nothing more of an ask from you. If you can't be part of it, it is okay. If you don't understand, it is okay. Just be an ally, and that's the thing. Just be mindful about it.
Thank you, Deepa. Being mindful, using proper language, and being an ally, that itself can serve as a support system for, for that matter, anyone. It is not only for LGBTQ, but for anyone. Yes, Gauri.
Yeah, so yes, great ideas, and yes, I fully agree that it has to start from grassroots. And I think we have done it earlier. We will be able to do it. Remember those days when it happened with me, when a woman would join after maternity and break. Like, I joined when my daughter was 2, and the questions would be, "Who's taking care of her? Don't you feel bad when you come to work? She must be crying. Uh, doesn't she stop you when you step out of the home?" Now it's normalized, people know it does happen. So likewise we will be doing this also. It's just matter of time, because we are already working in right direction. Celebrating differences has become an agenda today. So when we start celebrating differences, we realize that anything and everything is a possibility, and we have that open mindset, and it does work. I think some of the steps that organizations are already taking, and more can be done in this area, is number one, uh, talking to leaders and ensuring that they are aware, because everything starts from the leader. Everything, culture, anything starts from the top. So that would be one thing. Kind of pronouns that we use, so we generally restrict ourselves between binary, like Delch said. So it's not binary, we have to go for they, them, or whatever our preferred pronouns are. So that would be another thing. Now, educating yourself is your responsibility. Organization will definitely run those awareness programs, but you cannot be talking to someone in the system and then just thinking that, oh, I apologize and I made a mistake, like asking someone, a woman, that who's your future husband if they are going to get married. There is no, it's not sure that it has to be a man, it can be anything, right? So those kind of things, some steps we have to take on our own. There is lot of things happening and there is so much to learn from. It's not that there is any dearth of information, it's just that we have to take step and we have to move forward. This is how we learned. And again, both Deepa and Del mentioned that childhood we did not know anything about it, but today we know this is how it works and this is how it happens, and life is not binary. So understanding is on us. Making leaders understand is critical, most critical step, and organizations have to take steps there. Having LGBTQ included in all the policies, it should not be just a token, but it should be included. If talking about your wellness policy, talking about your mediclaim, your insurance, have we included partners? That is one of the questions. That so everything that we do when it comes to employee experience, inclusion, we have to evaluate it on this parameter also, so that they are not excluded. So these are some of the things that I would say we must do. But yes, I fully agree, it has to start from grassroots. But those who are already adult, they have to learn. They cannot go back to childhood, they don't have that opportunity. So learning has to be done today.
Yes. So from grassroots, so to make oneself aware, to including the policies that is not in terms of binary, including only binary people, and also leaders. When we come to leaders, I believe that they are all they must aware about the situation, the change that is coming in, right? But how can a leader can bring an atmosphere of inclusion regardless of again their personal views or religious background or the diverse background wherever they are coming from? But how can they can bring that inclusion? Very a minor point of view I'm talking. I'm not talking a big change, because the big change requires a lot of policy change and other leaders involvement and all. But then if say I'm a team lead and I just want to bring that, what are 3 steps or 1 step I can take right now in coming months so that it is more positive, it is the community is included in a positive way, the change comes in a positive way.
So may I, Jigisha? Yeah. Okay. So I agree with Gauri when she says change, this specific change has to flow top down, because this, you're changing the entire culture of the company. And the best possible way to do that is by example. So if a leader simply talks about it, but then he says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, he's lost it. So your opening words itself are not inclusive. So there's no point of you going and giving a 15-minute speech on inclusion when you keep saying, so boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, how are we today? If you don't change your language, so it has to come from within. That's why I said not just top down, but by example. So when you're saying we are a cultural organization, you say, good morning, everyone. How is everyone today? So simple things like that. It begins, going down to the brass tacks, there are 3 different verticals, I would say, that you can bring about this cultural change. 1 is, of course, your communication. 2 is your physical changes that you bring about in your workplace. And 3, it is your employee involvement in education. So that would be the 3 stages when you break down change of culture into. But first, let's begin with communication. That's the easiest. That's the most example setting, and that is what actually changes from one person to the other. Let's say 4 of us are working in the same company, having a conversation about one of our colleagues, and that person happens to be a trans woman, okay? And we keep referring to that person as, so I heard he went and did this and he went and did that. And if even one person among us says, no, hold on, I think, so they are transitioning, I think we should be using the pronoun she. Let's refer to XYZ as she, and that's a change. That's an immediate change. And then the rest of them suddenly like, oh, are we supposed to refer to them as she? Yes, because she identifies as a trans woman. and therefore her pronouns are she and her, and let's refer to her as she. So that's one change in the workplace immediate that you have brought about, right? That one person can at least within their circle of influence three others. The other thing is when there is a lot of education happening at the corporate level. Now, corporate employees are not just corporate employees. That's one part of your identity, right? Gauri, Deepa, when you go home, when you pack up and go home, you're also a mother. So imagine if this education is happening to you at the workplace, you are bound to imbibe it in your personal life as well. So, Deepa mentioned she has a conversation with her daughter, Gauri has that. So, when you are influencing your employee, you're also in turn influencing the other generations. You're also influencing, your sphere of influence is not just limited to your employees, but it affects and impacts society as well, and it impacts generations to come. The child feels so comfortable that my mom comes home and speaks to me about this. Probably tomorrow, if the child either has a question or wants to disclose something about their gender or sexuality, they feel brave enough, they feel confident enough to walk up to their mother and say, I think I am feeling this, knowing that the mother will take it well. So, what seems like a tiny, okay, just educating the employees or just passing around memos saying, please be mindful of the pronouns you use. Simple things like writing your pronouns at the end of your signature block in your emails. That's a change. Addressing people with inclusive language. You use the word spouse or partner instead of husband or wife. These are small, tiny changes that don't cost a penny, but the implications are so far fetched. I mean, we can't even imagine. So, like I said, it impacts not just you, your company, and your employees, but it goes right up to it goes home with the employee and it impacts a generation. So, lots of detailed changes can impact. But yeah, since you asked about what are the small changes that we can make, start by example and start small, is what I think.
Yeah. That's
Back
wonderful,
to you.
Darsha. Communication plays an important role, and conveying the message in a precise manner can bring it, can bring a bigger change, not at workplace, but at home to the next generation. Yes, Deepa. So, would you like to add something to it? What is that small or one step I can take today so that the change, positive change comes?
Okay, so you asked about, you mentioned about, having our personal view or religious view. I would want to, address that first before I move on to this answering this question. See, our personal views are just that, personal. Let's keep it to ourselves. Let's not, ensure or say that this is my personal view and you all have to agree to it and you all have to do that. It's not going to happen. So keep your personal views aside, and you want to how you want to conduct yourself within your family, within your community, and everything is one. But at workplace you cannot get your personal things in place, be it religious, be it any other viewpoints that you have. Let's keep it aside, because workplace is a place where we are all there for a common goal. We are all working towards achieving one particular aspect, and let's not do that. And just like it's very simple, it's just simple as that. If I don't like someone coming and telling me to listen to one particular music, I mean, that's the basis, right? I mean, basic thing. I don't think so. I have the right to go and tell somebody else to listen to one particular kind of music, and that's about it. So let's keep our personal choices, our personal viewpoints to ourselves, and that's about it. And coming to how we can actually make it an inclusive workplace. Well, it's as Delshad gave an example of, that is how you can be an ally. Like when you're seeing a kind of a discrimination happening and you voice it out, you are actually indirectly being an ally there. So you don't have to say, hey, I'm an ally. You don't have to say it out loud. You just have to show it in your actions. Like simple things, like for example, you have your onboarding documents, or even the interviews for that matter, we need to ensure that our interviewers and the leaders who are interviewing the candidates are mindful about how they need to use these languages. And the documentation when the onboarding thing happens, the thing of having just two things as checkpoints is binary. You need to have inclusive things like say others, or add additional points. And most importantly, as I mentioned, that as we all are discussing about and we all agree to, it has to come from top down. So the simple thing that we can do is make a change in our mission statement. So then we as a company is are showing it out and trying it out to people that yes, we are inclusive and we believe in this. And when we have that mission statement or the inclusivity statement out there, it's there for everyone in your company to see, and even for your clients, even for your customers, it's all out there for them to see it. And then you slowly trickle it down to your policies and ensure that all of these things are implemented. And it just takes small small things, as I mentioned, the onboarding documents, the workforce infrastructure. When we talk about restrooms, when we talk about things, that is something that is a very key thing. And there are couple of my friends who have faced this ridicule if they use either either of the two binary washrooms. Arey, why is this person coming here, or why is this person going there? It's none of your business. So those kind of things we need to have, like we have seen in this COVID things that many of the companies have now neutral gender neutral restrooms and things like that. So these are the small things that actually we can make or include to be more accommodative, to be more understanding. And we spoke about the transgender community and the things, and it's not an easy thing. We need to understand it takes a lot of courage. It's a tough journey that they're going through. And if there are some people who have joined your company who have after come in after the transition, well, it's okay, but you need to understand what kind of pronouns you need to use and things like that. And there are certain people who are undergoing this transition while they're working with you, and that is when they need your support. And that support is crucial, because as company, even in our insurance policies, these are not covered. There is no the surgery that is there, that is not covered. I think as a company, if you can make an attempt to have these particular things, the monetary support that you have, and then the leave policies for to undergo this particular kind of transition and everything, these are the small things that actually we can actually do. And you don't have to be an advocate of it. You just have to be an accommodative person to ensure that these are all taken care, and we are there to support them. And the work flexible work hours when they're going through this transition and all of those things, and the documentation involved. We all know in India how difficult it is to get a documentation and everything done. And the kind of support, if we are getting the kind of a support from our company, say for example, when we were supposed to have our COVID vaccinations done, we had all of these stalls and everything set up. Similar to that, have these ERGs or resource groups where they can actually go and get these documentations done, get these any help that they need, and it is addressed. So that is the kind of support system that you can actually build in your workplace, and that makes a huge difference. And that is when you're not just saying that in the policy that we are inclusive, we are actually truly inclusive till to the T. That's the change. So I think if we mindful about these things, and of course sensitization is something that is an ongoing thing, as I mentioned. We need to ensure that things come up, and we need to keep educating ourselves in all of these things. And I think that's the only way forward for how we can be inclusive, not just for the LGBTQ in sense, even for women, even for anything that for that matter, the language that we use, the small things. And it's just these small things. It's nothing huge, it's nothing big. We just don't have to break our heads so much about it. And if we're in doubt, ask questions to the right community people. They are going to help you. They're going to give you those information, and there you have it. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I think I went a little ahead, but I really felt that these are all important things that we really have to talk about.
Thank you so much, Deepa. That was in-depth and very informative. that these are the very small things, but we have never seen that. So myself, I have never seen this he and she, gender neutral washu. I have never thought about it. So common people can have these kind of small changes and can bring a lot of good. Yes, Gauri. So would like to have your words about 3 simple steps a leader can bring inside the team, if not at the organizational level, at the team level.
Yeah, brilliant suggestions by both Del and Deepa. And I will quickly wrap it up because there's a question. So I will just talk about two things. One, an example, because we all agree awareness is the key here. So a friend shared when they had to hire first person from LGBTQ plus community, what they did. They created a function, an event, and they invited LGBTQ community people to perform there, dance, share, and it was like storytelling because stories are what we connect with as a human. 70% of people, she mentioned that they were crying looking at this, and then hiring them was extremely easy. So creating that awareness in a different format, because we keep telling, and that's how the movies, like we discussed about it, they make a huge impact on us. So when we have to create awareness, we got to go innovative. That is one. And second thing, I would say that be ready to make mistakes and accept them. It does happen with me even today that sometimes I happen to say he, she, whatever, but then I'm quick to understand it and quick to revert back to the right set of language. So be ready to make mistakes, accept them, and keep learning, because it's conditioned in our head that it is only he or she. I'll just cite an example that it is not even she even today. A few months ago, we were buying a luxury car, and there was a form which I had to sign as head of admin. The full form was about he, him, his. There was no mention. I mean, there was no remote possibility of a woman signing it. Now we are talking about anyone signing it, irrespective of gender. So yes, it is going to take time. So we have to take up these things. So let's take that question, Jigisha.
Um, I did not
It's
receive it. It's in the chat.
Yeah, it's here on the screen. Can you see it?
Right, right, right. So the question here is how to bring awareness of inclusion in our older generations, as we are the bridge between the old and new generation. I think it's very appropriate question. Who would like to go first?
Yeah, let's go in the same sequence.
Yeah,
Okay,
Dilshad, please.
right. So again, going back to the very first thing I mentioned, it's not that this is not in our culture. So I guess a good place to begin would be that, because as people get older, they do tend to get a little spiritual. They do tend to get a little more deeply connected with religion, whatever religion they may be following. So if we go back and appeal to that sense, which they are closely associated to, if it's spiritual or if it's religious, and through that, then try and sensitize them that, this has always been there. It's just that, it was erased for a small portion of time, and therefore, we've suddenly started believing otherwise. But if you're, let's say, a Gita Bhakt, if you're into, it's everywhere in the Mahabharata, it's everywhere in the Ramayana. So why not, just like we have folk tales for kids, have storybooks for adults? I mean, I wouldn't say this particular generation or that particular, for adults to understand that this has always been there. Let's bring it back. Let's bring the awareness about our actual Indian culture back, not the ones that these, I would say, vested interests go around citing, whether it's anti-religion, all that. I think appealing with facts, as in all these stories, these tales, these incidents and occurrences to the older generation, I think that would sort of mellow them to understanding that this is not a fad, this is not a phase your grandchild is going through, or that you see on the road, or it's because when they see something a little off, they tend to, what is this generation doing? What are they going? Like, why are they behaving the way they behave? But then if we tell them that this has always been there, and this is, ये तो गीता भी कहती है, ये तो महाभारत में भी है, ये तो रामायण में भी है, then probably uh, that is where then you can bridge the connect. If you just try to say something like, नहीं पापा आजकल तो होता रहता है, या it's common these days, they will always look at it as a this generation thing. They will always look at it as a fad. They will always look at it as a phase, or kuch atrangi kar rahe hain bacche. It is not that. So for them to understand that it's genuinely natural, it's innately present, and it's not something that the person is opting for. It's not a lifestyle change or a choice the person is opting for, but that's who the person truly is. For them to understand that, you have to appeal to whatever they are closely associated with, and then bring it back through that. So then understanding it would be easier, is what I. Back to you, Jikisha.
Right. So quickly, can I have views from Deepa and Gauri, because we are already hitting the clock.
So, in the paucity of time, I completely agree with what Dilshad mentioned, that, going back and kind of telling them that, this was always there and it was just clouded, and that we are conditioned to believe in a certain way. We just have to, tell them to be patient, and just tell them to be open, because, they might not accept it as immediately, or, bata diya to ha, theek hai, and all those things. That's not going to happen. Just be patient with them, and also ask them to also be patient and try and understand or read things, and abreast themselves about the whole thing. So that's about it. So I think it's all about educating yourself and educating the people around you in whatever way you can, and that will bring about the change. And you also be in that acceptance mode, you also be in that ever learning mode, and then that is going to give you that the thing that we want to see, that can make a change in our society.
Yes, Gauri.
So,
Final words.
yes. Thanks, Jyoti, for joining and asking this question. Wonderful question indeed, because if we don't bridge this gap, the next generation also would be at the same stage as we are. I think leading by example is what I would say, in addition to what Del and Deepa have already mentioned. Talk to them about this. We are having this session today. Go and talk to them. Tell them this is what is happening. Why are we celebrating this month? It's just like celebrating Diwali or Dashera or Eid, whatever. So more and more we go and share these stories with them, and more we lead by example. Our facial expressions are also very important when you listen to such things, or they are watching. When you're watching this movie with them, how are you reacting is the first thing that is coming to their mind. So I think leading by example is what I would say to this. Back to you, Jikisha.
Yes. So that's about it. Workplace to the educational systems to the grassroots level, parent talking to the child, and parent talking to the parents too. That is how we together bring the change, including language, sensitization at public service, then leadership who can bring the change, innovation, bringing, when we are talking about inclusivity, it cannot be harsh or hard. It can be innovative too. So I have gained so much knowledge, and government policies are doing their bit, corporates are doing their bit, educators are doing their bit. As a common person, as a team lead, or as a co-worker, I should be more inclusive. So thank you so much, Dilshad, Deepa, and Gauri, adding to this topic. Your views and audience who has joined with us today. Jyoti, for asking that question which has never popped up, like, okay, home can be a question too, right? So that's over to you, Jyoti. I guess we are.
Yeah, so Jyoti is mentioning that she got a few ways to create awareness. We are glad that this session added that value. Thank you so much, Jigisha, for curating this, and the flow was amazing, and we are ending on time as well. Del, absolutely wonderful thoughts, and your expertise definitely came out here as well. Deepa, yes, you went a long way, but you went a long way in establishing your thoughts as well, and brought out a lot of very, very important points. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I would
Thank you
just
so
want to
much.
end, with one statement that, let us see everyone as, they see themselves. and not like how you see them. See them as themselves, and that's about it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We should